Home Studio Start podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Home Studio Start. Today we're going to really dig into this awesome article, Master Vocal Mixing, Top Tips for a Perfectly Balanced Track.
Yeah. Getting those vocals to sit right in the mix, it can be tough, right? It's such a crucial part of any track.
Totally. And this article, it's packed with advice. We're going to break it all down today and give you some actionable strategies to make your vocals shine.
For sure. So let's start with something super fundamental, EQ.
Yeah. EQ, that's where it all begins. You got to shape the sound before you can even think about anything else.
Exactly. The article talks about this area, the 200 to 500 hertz range, where vocals can get muddy. You know, that kind of low, mid, bite up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like this woolly sound that just kind of clouds everything up.
Right. So the article suggests using a parametric EQ to sort of gently roll that off.
Okay, so sculpting the sound a bit.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful.
Yeah.
You don't want to take away too much.
Yeah, for sure. The article makes a good point. It's about finding the balance. You want to clean things up, but you don't want to lose all the warmth and character of the vocal.
Totally. And then there's the high end. The article mentions boosting between 2 and 4 kilohertz.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the presence lives. That kind of bite and articulation that helps the vocal cut through the mix.
Right. Like making it stand out, but not in a harsh way.
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot. And another thing the article talks about is high-pass filtering.
Oh, yeah. High-pass filtering, that's a game changer. I remember when I first started out, I didn't even know what that was.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it's so important, especially for vocals, because it gets rid of all that super low rumble below 80 or 100 hertz.
Yeah, that stuff that you don't really need, and it just takes up space.
Yeah.
Cleaning that up makes a huge difference.
It does. And then the article gives this cool example, for a pop track where you want the vocal to be super upfront. They recommend a high pass around 100 hertz, a little dip around 300 hertz for muddiness, and then a slight boost at 5 kilohertz for air.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's a good starting point.
Mm.
But like you said earlier, it's always about listening and adjusting based on the specific vocal and the mix.
For sure. And the article really stresses that. Don't be afraid to experiment and trust your ears.
Totally. So we've talked about EQ, and now let's move on to another crucial tool, compression.
All right, compression. This is where a lot of people kind of get, intimidated.
Yeah, it can be tricky. I remember when I first started using compression, I would just squash everything and it would sound so lifeless.
Yeah, you got to be careful with it. But fundamentally, compression is all about managing the dynamic range of the vocal. So evening out the volume differences between the quiet parts and the loud parts.
Right, so it's more consistent. You don't want the listener to be constantly adjusting the volume.
Exactly. And the article talks about this, a vocalist who sings really softly in some parts and then really belts it out in others. Without compression, you might lose those quiet moments, and the loud parts could be way too overpowering.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance, making sure everything is audible and impactful. And the article gives some really practical settings, like using a moderate ratio, maybe around 3.1.
Yeah, and then the attack and release times are super important too. They suggest an attack of 10 to 30 milliseconds to let those initial transients through so it doesn't sound too squashed.
Okay, so that initial punch, like the beginning of a word or a note,
yeah,
that comes through clearly.
Yeah, exactly. And then a release time of maybe 50 to 150 milliseconds so the compressor can recover quickly before the next phrase.
Got it. And the article mentions Ariana Grande's tracks as an example of how subtle compression can really enhance the emotion in vocals.
Yeah, it's not about making everything the same volume. It's more like shaping the performance and making sure it all connects.
Absolutely. And the article has some other cool tips too, like sidechain compression.
Yeah, sidechaining. That's a great technique. So, when the vocal comes in, you can use it to duck other instruments just a little bit, like some pads or guitars to create some space.
Oh, yeah. That's a trick I use all the time. It's like giving the vocal its own little pocket in the mix.
Exactly. And then there's parallel compression.
Okay, parallel compression. That one always sounds a bit intimidating to me.
It can be, but it's actually pretty simple. You're basically taking a heavily compressed version of the vocal and blending it with the original dry signal.
So you're kind of combining the best of both worlds.
Exactly. You get the thickness and presence from the compressed signal, but you also retain some of the natural dynamics from the uncompressed one. And of course, the article stresses the importance of always listening in the context of the full mix. What sounds good soloed might not work at all when everything else is playing.
Makes sense. So EQ and compression, those are like your foundational tools. And then you start adding space and depth with reverb and delay.
Exactly. Reverb, it creates that sense of ambience, like the vocal is in a real space.
Right, like a room or a hall or something.
Yeah. And the article gives examples of different types of reverb, like plate reverb for a vintage feel or hall reverb for a big open sound.
Okay, so you're kind of choosing the environment that the vocal sits in.
Yeah.
And then delay, that's a whole different kind of spatial effect.
It is. A short slapback delay can thicken a vocal and add some character, almost like a subtle echo.
Yeah, I love using that. I can give it a real cool vibe.
Right. And longer delays can create these like call and response effects or add rhythmic interest, especially if you sync the delay time to the tempo of the song.
Oh, that's a cool tip. Syncing it to the tempo makes it feel more intentional.
Yeah. And the article has some great advice for using reverb and delay effectively. For reverb, they say start subtle. You can always add more later, but it's hard to take it away once it's there.
Right. Less is more, at least to start with.
Yeah, and they also suggest using pre-delay, which is that short gap before the reverb kicks in. That helps to keep the initial vocal attack clear and prevent it from getting washed out.
Oh, I see. So it doesn't sound too muddy.
Exactly. And for delay, they say start with lower levels and gradually increase until it sits right in the mix.
Okay, and you can adjust the feedback too, right? To control how many repeats you hear.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot.
All right, so we've got EQ, compression, reverb, and delay. We're really shaping the sound now. But then there's another level of control with automation.
Yes. Automation, this is where you can really fine-tune things and make the vocals sit perfectly throughout the song.
Like adjusting the volume over time.
Yeah, you can automate volume, panning, even effects levels. It's super powerful.
So like if the vocal starts really quiet and then builds to a big chorus, you can use automation to make sure those quiet parts don't get lost and the loud parts aren't clipping.
Exactly. And the article suggests gently riding the volume up in the verses and maybe pulling it back a bit in the choruses just to maintain that consistent presence.
Makes sense. And most DWs have these automation lanes where you can actually draw in the volume changes you want.
Yeah, so you can really follow the emotional arc of the song. And you can also use automation to enhance those emotional moments.
Like maybe add a touch of reverb or delay on a particular lyric to emphasize it. I've heard that done before. It's really cool.
Yeah, it can be super effective. The article mentions Adele's Hello as an example, how they use reverb swells during those big emotional phrases.
Okay, yeah, I can hear that. But the key is to be subtle, right?
Right. You don't want those automation moves to be too obvious or jarring. It should feel natural, like it's part of the performance.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. EQ, compression, reverb, delay, and automation. But there are also techniques that you can use during the recording process that can have a huge impact on the final mix, like layering and harmonization.
Yeah, those are great for adding depth and richness to the vocal.
Layering, that's basically recording multiple takes of the same vocal line and then stacking them on top of each other, right?
Exactly. It creates this thicker, fuller sound.
And you can even create a cool chorus effect by duplicating the lead vocal and then adding a little bit of pitch shift or a very short delay to one of the layers.
Yeah, it's like making one voice sound like a whole choir.
But the article mentions that it's really important to make sure those layers are perfectly aligned.
Yeah, if they're not aligned, you can get all these phase issues and the sound can get really muddy.
Okay, that makes sense. And then harmonization, that's where you add additional vocal parts that harmonize with the lead vocal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like adding those beautiful harmonies that you hear in gospel music.
And it doesn't have to be super complicated either. Even just one or two simple harmonies can make a huge difference.
Totally. And the article suggests starting with simple intervals like thirds or fifths above or below the melody.
Okay, so like building those harmonies from the ground up.
Exactly. These techniques, layering and harmonization, they can really elevate the whole sonic experience and make the vocals sound so much more polished and professional.
Awesome. So we've covered a ton of information here today. It's been a real deep dive into vocal mixing.
It has. And the article really emphasizes that it's a blend of art and science. You need the technical knowledge of EQ and compression and all that, but you also need to trust your ears and make creative decisions.
And it all starts with a clean recording, right?
Right. Garbage in, garbage out, as they say. You can't fix a bad recording with mixing.
True. But once you have a good recording, then you can start applying all these techniques to really make the vocals shine.
Yeah, and the article also encourages us to listen to professionally mixed tracks, really pay attention to how the vocals sit in the mix, and try to analyze what techniques they might be using.
That's a great tip. Actively listen and try to pick apart the elements that we've been discussing.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah, the more you practice, the better you'll get at it.
Definitely. It's a journey.
So here's a thought for everyone listening. The next time you're working on a track, pick just one of these techniques that we've talked about today and really focus on it. Maybe try subtly EQing the vocal to clean up the low end, or experiment with adding a short slapback delay. And then listen critically. How does it change the sound? What kind of vibe does it create?
And when you're listening to your favorite songs, try to listen for those subtle details. How is the reverb shaping the space? How much compression are they using? It might just blow your mind how much these little tweaks contribute to the overall sound.
Yeah, and it can give you a whole new way of listening to music and approaching your own mixes.
For sure.
Well, thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you next time.